Hey guys, welcome here again to Motoroids. We are in the beautiful state of Goa, and where else could Royal Enfield have launched this motorcycle? This motorcycle, by the way, is the first ever bobber on the 350cc platform by Royal Enfield, and boy oh boy does this look good. Now to start off, the primary questions that the most of you would have about this motorcycle is how is it different from the classic 350, a motorcycle on which it is primarily based, be it the engine, be it the chassis primarily, and also to a large extent the wheelbase, which has been altered slightly for the new seating arrangement. And I'm going to unravel this motorcycle in totality. You'd be able to know everything that is there to know about this motorcycle. So if you're genuinely interested in buying this motorcycle or just about knowing this motorcycle, you should watch this video till the end. Now, the most important aspect of this motorcycle are the bold color themes that Royal Enfield have introduced. And when we first showed you all the colors, this black was the one that caught the fancy of most of you. So we got this shack black color here for you, and it looks rather nice. I think this is the most inoffensive and the most agreeable of all the colors that we have. So the teal color or the red color or the purple color are either liked by a small bunch or they are not liked by them, but this one is something which almost everyone seems to agree with. So in terms of colors, you have 4 colors to choose from, and this shack black essentially is a matte black color. And some details that you'd do well to know about is that the rim here is all black. There are no pinstripes, it's all matte. You have this golden Royal Enfield branding here. Then on the tank you get this beautiful glossy pattern on matte. This is basically stickering, and this same stickering is there on the top part of the tank as well. You will see the same pattern on the sides and right below the Goan Classic 350 branding as well. The rest of the motorcycle is also finished in matte black, and this logo here is very special. This is representative of the sunny Goa, and this special logo can be found only on the Goan Classic 350. It's done in 2 renditions. This one is the slightly golden color, and you also have this logo on the other colors in chrome. Now the wheels here are, as I mentioned, black. On the other motorcycles they are themed with the body color, and you'll also get these white wall tires to take you back in time on all of the colors of this motorcycle. Similarly, at the rear also you have white wall tires, and that's really what makes this motorcycle stand apart. Now, apart from this shack black color that you have here, you have the rave red color, which you can see on the screen right now in detail. Notice that the logo there is finished in chrome. You have this black color and a red spine with white stripes flanking it, and it is, in my opinion, the boldest color of all the colors that you have here. The next color is the trip teal, which essentially is teal with a dash of orange. The wheels are painted in orange, and the logo of Royal Enfield is also painted in a different color on the tank. This is also the only color where you have the silencer in chrome. And then you have the purple haze, where you have the tank in a purple color, and you also have Goan written under the RE emblem. And while the tank is black, the rest of the motorcycle is finished in a very glossy metallic black color. Now we'll start talking about the differences over the classic 350, and to start off, the weight is very similar, and you'll be surprised to know that despite being a bobber, the weight has not been slashed. So while the classic is 195 kg, this one, with the very short and rather unusable pillion seat, which is not here by the way, it can be put on or released. The weight with that seat is 197 kgs. Remove the seat and the weight of both the motorcycles is almost the same at about 195 kgs. Now the engine is also the same, produces about 20 HP or thereabouts and 27 Newton meters of torque. The power is produced at 6100 RPM, the torque is produced at 4000 RPM. The gearing is the same, the sprocketing is the same, while the rear wheel is smaller at 16 inches as opposed to the 17 incher on the classic 350. The higher profile tires make the radius of the tire the same as the classic, and the final gearing is the same. So in terms of gear speeds, in terms of the top speed, and more or less in terms of acceleration also, you'll not find much difference. The mapping is also the same. Although while I was riding the motorcycle, I found that this is ever so slightly more sprightly. If you really have a keen eye, you'll see that the response from the throttle, especially in the early revs, is slightly better on this one. But it's not something that you would write home about or would make a world of difference in the real world. I also checked the gear speeds and they matched with the Classic 350. So in the first gear, this will do about 50 kilometers per hour. In the second gear, about 78 kilometers per hour, which is commensurate with what I observed with the Classic 350. So in that sense, the engine and the gearing is the same and there is not much difference. Now the rake angle and the trail on this motorcycle is slightly different from the Classic 350, and therefore the wheelbase here is longer by a very small margin of 10 mm, almost negligible, and that's happened because the mounting of the shock absorbers here is slightly different from the Classic 350 to make for the different seat structure here. And in essence, the handling is slightly different, primarily because the handlebars here are taller and the foot pegs are further. So this is not an out and out feet forward kind of a riding position. I'll just sit on the motorcycle and let you know. So for example, if you're riding the Meteor, your feet will be somewhere here, and if you're riding the Classic, your feet will be somewhere here. So it's somewhere in the middle. It's slightly feet forward. You cannot put any pressure on your feet. For example, if you want to straddle the motorcycle, you can do that for short bursts. If you're going off the road, you can straddle the motorcycle for very short distances, but the position of the foot pegs does not allow you to straddle the motorcycle for long durations. So if you're someone who would be taking the motorcycle off the road as well, for example, we are on the top of the Vagator hill, the absolute top, and as you can see, these stones are rather round. So while climbing up, if I was able to straddle it properly, I would have ridden it better, but it was difficult to get it up here. So if you're going to be riding it slightly off the road, like a lot of you would like to go to Himalayas as well, this motorcycle is not as suited for those kind of uses as the Classic 350. So that's something that you should be mindful of. Now, the handlebar height, as I mentioned, is different from the Classic 350, and it's been raised by 100 mm. And by itself, that should have been better if you were taking it off the road. But as I mentioned, it's more difficult to straddle. Apart from that, the rest of the switchgear is the same. We have seen this switchgear on the Classic 350, Meteor, etc. also. Then you have this hazard switch here. Now this is the high and the low beam and turn indicators. This is the horn. And the mirrors, I rode the motorcycle for a good 150 odd kilometers today. The mirrors are usable. They are not the widest. They are not the most usable, but they are not useless as well. They don't vibrate too much and they give you a good sense of what's coming from behind, although there is a bit of blind spot as well. Now, while we are on the subject, let's also talk about the instrument console here. The key looks like this, and the speedo is very simplistic. It's very retro looking. Then you have this digital meter here, and the button to toggle through all the screens is right here. And here you have the fuel gauge, trip 1, trip 2, the clock, and then you have the odo. You also have a gear indicator here. Then you also have this stripper integrated into the instrument console, and this is again very familiar. So the only new bit that you have here is the handlebar, which is higher by 100 mm. The seat height here, like it's the case with most of the bobbers, is lower, and this motorcycle is more accessible to even the shorter riders. So while the Classic 350 is 805 mm, this motorcycle is only 750 mm, and as you can see, myself being 5 feet 10, I can literally dig my heels into the ground with a bend in my knees. And if you're a short rider, this motorcycle would really suit you. It really lends itself as a very easily mountable motorcycle. Now, continuing with the changes, as you can see, this motorcycle comes with spoke wheels, and these wheels are the expensive ones. These are the spoke wheels which allow for tubeless tires to be put onto them, and that is a fantastic thing. So you have the retro styling and you also get to have tubeless tires. This again is an advantage over the Classic 350. You get disc brakes at both ends and you get dual channel ABS with this motorcycle. So the front brakes are 300 mm while the rear ones are 270 mm. The front suspension is shared with the Classic 350, although the rake angle here is slightly sharper at 26 degrees as compared to the 26.7 degrees on the Classic. The trail here is also slightly different, and the difference is about 10 mm, and that reflects in the wheelbase as well. The suspension travel is 130 mm up front, and at the rear it's 105.3 mm. From what we are told, this entire suspension unit is different from the one that we have on the Classic 350, and I'll also talk about how it feels on the go, but you'll have to wait just a bit before I come on to the topic of performance and handling as well. The lighting setup is all LED. You have this familiar LED unit, you have this hood which is finished in chrome, LED blinkers, and these LED pilot lamps as well. Now the brake and the clutch lever are also adjustable, and in order to adjust it, you just have to turn this knob. You have to push the lever and then turn the knob clockwise or anti-clockwise to adjust the stiffness according to your liking. Now as you can see, the exhaust here looks quite different as compared to the Classic 350, and while the Classic 350 has a bulge before it ends, it's much straighter. But when we talked with the product team at Royal Enfield, what they told us is that by design it's not supposed to sound any different from the Classic 350. But in any case, let us fire this baby up and let you have a listen at how this exhaust sounds. Of course, the engine cuts off when the side stand is on. It also comes with a main stand. Now the tail lamp as well as the blinkers are LED units, and as I mentioned, the lighting on this motorcycle is completely LED. Now coming towards the rear fender, here it's all steel. If that is a question that you have, all the fenders, the tank and everything is solid steel, and this stay here that you have for the rear fender is also a new inclusion, and it also has this Royal Enfield branding, and it's mounted on the swing arm itself. Now talking about the seat, this seat as you can see is all new, specifically made for the Goan Classic 350, and as you can see it also says Goan Classic 350 here with this metallic branding, and you also have this contrasting stitching, and it is raised at the rear, so you tend to slip forward a little bit. While you tend to go back, you move forward as you ride. The seat by itself is quite comfortable. However, while you're sitting on this motorcycle, and this is something that you need to know if you're going to be riding this motorcycle for long distances, your feet are forward set and the handlebar is high set. So what that means is that most of your weight is on your back and your buttocks. And if you're someone who likes that riding stance, then you're welcome to ride this for long distances. But from an anatomically correct position, it's always better, personally for me also, to distribute your weight on your feet, on your back and your arms for traveling long distances. And this motorcycle, unless you're used to this open-chested, feet-forward kind of riding style, in my personal opinion, is not very well suited for ultra-long distances. If you're going to be using it for shorter distances like 100-200 kilometers, it's fine. But over longer distances, in my personal opinion, the Classic 350 would be slightly better. It is, as I mentioned, a detachable pillion seat as well, and you can see it in the video right now. However, this seat is not very usable and can be used for a pillion rider only for very short distances. The ground clearance at 170 mm is the same as the Classic, and generally speaking, even over bad speed breakers or vicious bumps, there won't be any problem, and you can ride this motorcycle on bad roads without any problem at all. Alright then guys, let's start talking about the performance as well. And the most important aspect to talk about performance is basically the handling, because I'll tell you what, the performance in terms of how this motorcycle drives, as I mentioned, because of the smaller wheel but the fatter rubber, the gear ratios are the same. So you talk about the gear speeds, you talk about the top speed, whether you talk about the tractability, everything remains rather identical with the Classic 350. And just to give you a perspective, this motorcycle will start moving from as low as 15 kilometers per hour in the second gear, and in the third gear you'll see some movement happening without any knocking happening from as low as 25 kilometers per hour. In the fourth gear, this will have a move on from 30 kilometers per hour. And even in the fifth gear, this will move from as low as 35 kilometers per hour. So the tractability is fantastic. Even at very low speeds, you don't really have to shift gears. And as long as you are just trundling along, not trying to hustle this motorcycle, it's just fine. The engine also, as we have seen with the J series platform, it's very refined, very vibe-free as long as you keep it relaxed. So at 3,000-4,000 RPM, you won't have any vibrations creeping in. But if you want to hustle it, if you take it over 4,000 RPM, of course, the vibrations start building up primarily at the foot pegs. And as you build the revs, as you take it closer to the limiter, the vibrations get really perceptible and you can really feel some buzz on the foot pegs as well as on the handlebar. But that's only closer to the higher revs, and at low to medium revs there is hardly any vibration happening. Now the difference, as I mentioned, is primarily in the way this thing handles. And essentially the first thing that you want to know is that the seating position here is such that you cannot do much with it, and your bum will rest where the seat is designed to let it rest. If you want to go back, it will slide back into the middle, and you cannot transfer your weight too much. It's a very upright kind of a riding position. So in terms of the ability of this motorcycle to carve corners, to give you confidence, I think the Classic has a slight edge. This motorcycle is not as agile, as quick to turn as the Classic. The difference is small, but the difference is there nonetheless. Also, the other difference are these risers, and because of the higher handlebars, you don't have as connected a feeling while you're around the bends as you have on the Classic 350. So from an out and out handling perspective, also because of the position of the foot pegs, the Classic 350 feels slightly more sporty. I know that that's not the purpose that the Classic 350 is also meant for, but comparing the two motorcycles, the Classic 350 definitely is slightly better around the bends. As I mentioned before as well, the seating position here is such that you cannot transfer much of your weight onto the handlebars or onto the foot pegs. The weight is primarily borne by your back and your behind. And as long as the roads are smooth, they are well laid out, there is no problem. But as soon as the roads get broken or you ride over bad surfaces, the undulations start translating into your back, into your butt, into your spine. And as I mentioned, it's not a motorcycle which is meant to be ridden over bad surfaces. Now the rear shock absorbers on this motorcycle are slightly on the firmer side, and despite being on the softest setting of the 6 preload adjustment notches available, I realized that this motorcycle was riding rather firm, and I only wonder if I increase the preload, if I make it slightly firmer, how much firmer can it be? So especially for a motorcycle which is supposed to be with a feet forward kind of a riding position, I thought that the ride quality on this motorcycle was on the firm side. It definitely aids handling and around corners, especially for a feet forward kind of a motorcycle with these risen handlebars. This was doing very well, and we carry decent speed around corners. But from a comfort perspective, I really think that as long as the roads are well laid out, you'd be okay. But as the roads get broken, as the surfaces become a little bit patchy, you will find the suspension to be rather firm. So as I mentioned earlier as well, this motorcycle is meant primarily for short to medium journeys also. And for me personally, I don't know about you, because a lot of people like that very upright kind of a stance. But for me personally, I think that for long distances, the Classic 350 is the better, more comfortable motorcycle. Also from a practicality perspective, the seat on the Classic 350 is bigger, it's more suited for a pillion, and all of that really makes the Classic 350 a better motorcycle practically. But just look at this motorcycle in terms of its presence, the way it looks, the Goan Classic 350 is the better looking of the two. A few more details. There's a grab hook here, and if you install the pillion seat, which is rather small, that seat also comes with a grab handle on both the sides. Also, this comes with a very neatly done sari guard, so that again is fantastic. The chain is also partly covered, so it's half covered, and it also comes with a heel and toe shifter. The gear shifts are pretty slick, there was no problem. There is a very small bit of notchiness to be felt sometimes, but generally speaking, the gear shifts are pretty smooth. This comes with a 5-speed gearbox. And in terms of its top speed, the top speed would be about 120 kilometers per hour or thereabouts, similar to the Classic 350. And the cruising speeds would be about 90 to 95. After 100, it's a bit of a push for this motorcycle and this engine. But overall, it accelerates rather briskly. The low end power and torque is pretty good. This, by the way, guys, is the new Royal Enfield electric ADV motorcycle. with 13 kilowatt hour battery pack and about 160 kilometers of range shown at EICMA, and it's being tested right now in Goa as we review this motorcycle. So coming back to the acceleration, it's pretty brisk and it doesn't leave you wanting for more acceleration. It's more than sufficient for the kind of motorcycle that it is. However, if you want to compare it with the performance of, say, the Himalayan, that motorcycle is in a different league in terms of acceleration, in terms of top speed, in terms of handling and everything else. That platform really shines, and the J series platform is a notch below that platform. Like I mentioned before, the Bobber or the Goan Classic 350 is more of a style-oriented machine than practicality. So if you're looking for day-to-day usage, long-distance travel, or to ride it with a pillion, I think the Classic 350 makes more sense. But purely in terms of aesthetics, the way this motorcycle looks, very low-slung, more accessible, and more beautiful, making a statement, then the Goan Classic 350 is the more standout model of the two. In terms of pricing, I'm pretty sure that the Goan Classic 350 is going to be priced above the Classic 350, and while the prices have not been announced yet, we'll know the prices in a couple of days, and the prices can be found in the description. So the prices for all the variants can be seen in the description below and also on the screen. While as you would agree that the Goan Classic 350 is not the most practical motorcycles of all, what do you think about its styling, and does this aesthetic and this riding style suit your riding style? Would you rather go for this or stay with the Classic 350? Do let us know in the comment section. Over and above that, if you have any questions about the Goan Classic 350, put them down in the comment section. I'll be very happy to answer them. And until next time, this is your friend Amit Changani signing off. Rev hard, rev free, and ride safe.